Point. Point. Let's talk about the opposite of nostalgia for the Super Nintendo. We've talked about the best. Let's actually talk about the worst, because it had a great library, but it also had a lot. Like, for me, this was... Nowadays, you look at games, you're like, that game's bad, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there's so many games out, you can just move on to the next game. Back in the day when you bought a game, you had that. It was not like, well, I have 47,000 games in my Steam library, right? You had a game and you owned it. And if it sucked, you just had to make the best of it, right? So we all had experience of playing bad games, owning bad games. What are some of the worst games on the Super Nintendo that y'all recall?
Oh, man.
This is not the worst, but I'm showing this because of this little logo right here.
LJN, yeah.
LJN, yeah. They were responsible for most of the bad games on the Super Nintendo.
I liked Aliens 3 though. I'm kind of surprised by
No,
that.
this game is not bad. It's not great, but it's also not horrible. But yeah, LJN, man, they used to put like some pretty bad games.
Yeah.
So I found a list. Does anybody off the top of their head, or actually Blab's found a list? But
well, I remember playing it on the Genesis when it first came out. There was a game called Pit Fighter. I don't know if you guys remember Pit Fighter.
Of course, I remember Pit Fighter.
And I remember the SNES version being fucking horrendous. You know what I mean? But I don't have like a lot of I don't remember a lot of my bad experiences on the Super Nintendo. But I do remember Pit Fighter being I loved it on the Genesis. I thought it was fantastic, and I remember it being terrible on the Super Nintendo.
Pit Fighter's actually their worst game. Worst game on the Super Nintendo.
So yeah, it was, and I don't even remember what it was about. Like in terms of I just remember being so incredibly disappointed because I loved it on the Genesis. I loved this game on the Genesis. This game was so fucking cool, man.
Well, I'm the same way. I actually have a personal story with this game. When this game was played in the arcades, I remember playing this at a CC's Pizza with my brother, and there was a fighter in it called Ty, and he was the kickboxer. He was I think he was dressed in either red or yellow, but I was at that young, impressionable age to where we would see this stuff and then we'd want to emulate it. So, and I have a brother who's a couple of years younger than me. So in the morning, on Saturday mornings, we would wake up, run outside first thing in the morning, not even put clothes on. We're running you got two little boys running out in our underwear, going straight to the trampoline. And then we would play Pit Fighter on our trampoline and beat the shit out of each other.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
I don't feel like Pit Fighter gets mentioned a lot. So sometimes when I bring it up, sometimes people look at me weird and other people like, hell yeah, I remember it. So it's hit or miss with people that remember Pit Fighter. You know what I mean? But I loved it, man. I again, for the Genesis, not so much the Super Nintendo.
Let's take a look at some of these other games here. They have Lester the Unlikely, which looks like a bad game.
Yeah, it looks awful.
I rented that once. It was terrible.
Race driving.
That almost looks like Rad Racer.
Rad Racer,
yeah, from the NES. We haven't stepped up graphically from the Super Nintendo. From the NES to Super Nintendo.
So Race Driving was actually an Atari game that was released in the arcade, and you guys have probably all played it at one point. But it was like a race driving simulator. And when you went to the arcade, that's not what you wanted. So it was extremely hard to play. And graphically, it was pretty cool for the arcade. When it was brought over to the Super Nintendo, I think it was legitimately, it was 4 frames a second. It was really, really bad, really bad. College Football USA, Terminator 2 Judgment Day with the conveniently placed board right there over his junk.
Which is so sad because Star Wars was great. The Indiana Jones game was great. Indiana Jones
the Lion
was
King was great. The Lion King and
Lion King was too damn hard.
Oh, dude, Batman Forever. I had to look in the manual because I didn't know how to jump in this game. Not jump, but to go from to go to the upper floor. This is the sort of the labyrinth game, maze game when you have to go up and down the stage.
I didn't play this one.
Yeah. And I have to look up the manual to see how do you go up to the upper floor. It was terrible.
The reason why you had to do that, and Jeremy, the reason why you haven't heard of this game is, number one, it's incredibly rare, but it was developed by Midway. And what their thought process was, we're going to
Play
make
like Mortal Kombat.
Bingo. They're going to make it like Mortal Kombat. So it had the exact same button layout as Mortal Kombat, but it was like a platforming beat 'em up, and it was incredibly confusing. You'd have to do inputs to do special moves. It was really, really bad, but it was very, very rare. I don't know Rex Ronan, experimental surgeon.
Never heard of it.
But I do know Balls 3D. Did you guys ever play Balls?
Balls
Yes.
3D? No.
I own this game.
I'm pretty sure if you look up Balls 3D, you're gonna find different things online nowadays.
Balls 3D, man. I'll tell you what, this game.
Wow.
Let me just pull up the intro for this game. I think it's important that you hear the music that started this game, because I remember hearing the intro to this and being like, I don't know if I'm supposed to be hearing this or not. So let me pull this up really quick.
I like Johnny's comment. Google that now. You might get a slightly different result.
Here we go. Listen to this title screen music.
Oi. Oi.
What the frick, dude?
Oi. Oi. Oi.
Johnny, Johnny, I think you're wrong. You might get the same result.
Right. It's still.
I'm like wondering. I'm like, can my wife hear through the headphones what's going on?
So the game itself was ridiculously bad.
Can you record a cover?
Sounds like it.
Yeah.
Oi.
Yeah, you should absolutely record a cover of that. That'd be great. I'm pretty sure you can.
Damn.
It would be very well received on the
We
internet.
need a
these days.
sequel.
With that intro,
We need
it
a
does-
Super Balls 3D now.
with that intro, it doesn't deserve to be top 10. Like, that's just classic right there.
Then we get to like licensed games like Bebe's Kids, and I remember Bobby's World, Bebe's Kids. Like there was a lot of like I think Rugrats had a bad SNES inspired game or something. Bill Lambert's Combat Basketball,
Yes.
Revolution X, which
Oh, dude.
oh man, taking a game that was a light gun game and bringing it over to like the Super Nintendo just didn't ever
Is
work.
this the one with Aerosmith?
Yes,
Oh.
yeah.
God.
Yeah. This one is pretty batshit. The Rocketeer may be one of the worst Super Nintendo games I've ever played. I love the movie. The game was horrendous. Obviously, Mario's missing.
Oh, dude. Yeah.
Yep, a lot of people talk about that.
Educational game.
Nickelodeon guts. You have it. So,
You know, one game that doesn't get talked about enough for the Super Nintendo.
What's that?
It's based off one of my favorite television shows of all time. Home Improvement.
Dude.
What?
Where you get to fight
Fight
dinosaurs.
You go back in time as
Greatest
the
thing
guy.
ever.
What is the name of the main guy?
So Tim the Toolman Taylor.
Yeah, he
So-
goes back in time with his tools,
Yeah.
fighting dinosaurs with like a drilling.
Oh my god.
It's amazing.
It's so stupid and I love it, dude. It's so dumb. Oh, man.
What a concept.
This
Yes.
Tim the Toolman Taylor going through dinosaurs like this is.
This is proof
Look
that
at
the
this.
library is too big for the Super Nintendo. Like, we're making games about anything.
He's
This
shooting
feels
a nail
like it
gun?
was supposed to be some other game, and then the guys went like, let's slap the Home Improvement
Wait, so
team over there.
He's literally shooting a well, he's got a
Yeah, you have all sorts of tools.
Dude, it doesn't look half bad.
It's actually pretty fucking fun. It's actually pretty fun. Look at him. Arr, arr, arr.
Arr, 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 arr.
See if you can find a dinosaur. See if you can find a part where he fights one of the dinosaurs.
Oh, we'll oh, here we go. Yes, naturally, Tim the Toolman Taylor fighting the dinosaur.
Naturally. Wow.
Oh man, you think when they're like, listen, Tim, we got this great idea. we're gonna give you a nail gun, and you're gonna fight a dinosaur. And he's like, oh, God.
man,
Fantastic, man.
that's
Brilliant.
good stuff right there. That's good stuff.
Wow, that is great stuff right there.
I will say one that was. I don't know if this was just mine and my dad's guilty pleasure. Did you guys play any fishing games on the SNES? Like, or was
No.
just fishing not your thing?
I got some. Sometimes I will rent one of those pirate cartridges that were like 10 games
Had
in
everything.
one.
Yeah.
And one of those games were like a super
Right.
bass bass, actually.
Super bass.
Yeah,
Super
black.
bass
There was
something.
super black bass, and there was bass.
Super
Bass's black bass
yeah.
is the best. But Mark
Mhm.
Davis's The Fishing Master is the most garbage. Like, it's hot garbage fishing game. Like a video game where you're fishing where you can't see the fish until they bite. It's like you're just throwing in random ponds. It is the worst fishing game ever. It's so bad. Yeah.
That's awesome. That is
that's
awesome. I didn't play a lot of fishing games on the Super Nintendo. But
No,
I did like
can't
later
say,
on.
Yeah, I can't say I was like, you know, it'd be really fun fishing on a Super Nintendo. I can't say I ever did that, which is one of those things. But what do you think about this? Leave us a comment down below. We read every single one of them. Also, make sure you hit the subscribe button because you have found your home for common sense in the gaming and entertainment worlds.